It is Thursday, February 10th, and you are watching Right on Cue Sports. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. You are watching Right on Cue College Sports. I'm your host, Tyson Quiller. I'm going to give you a little rundown of what the program is going to cover today. First, we're going to dive into a couple of games I watched earlier this week that were just phenomenal. A couple of peculiar events that happened last night. Number of ranked teams going down to unranked teams. Then we're going to dive in headfirst into a little bit of an in-depth conversation of the conference, the mid-major conference that has been the most outstanding mid-major conference for sure of this year, if not for several years past, and that is this 2021-2022 Mountain West Conference basketball conference. It has been outstanding basketball play. There are some real high-flying players you will be seeing in the NBA one day. How many teams could make it to the NCAA tournament out of this conference? We will see. Could it be 3, 4? Some people are thinking maybe even 5. We will see. We're going to explore that. And then we're going to wrap things up, as we always do, with our preview of the slated games coming up for this weekend. You're going to want to hang around for that. You're going to want to get your marker ready to mark your calendar of those games that are coming up this weekend. But first, I want to kick things off with a game that was absolutely phenomenal and riveting. And maybe most impressive, I was shocked by the team that won this game. So this is obviously the game where number 8 Kansas traveled to Austin to take on number 20 Texas. And those of you who've been watching the program for a while, you know I've been just really down on the Texas offense. They've been down on themselves. They've been terrible, absolutely poor, not productive this year. They were averaging somewhere in the ballpark of 60 to 65 points in conference games on offense. That's not very impressive. And so if I were to tell you this game was played almost in the 80s, you would have thought, oh boy, man, Texas is going to have trouble hanging in there. Well, Texas gets the win at home, 79-76 over the Kansas Jayhawks, and Texas's offense finally went off. They had a great first half. Texas was up 40-35 at the break, and I was thinking even at that point, I was going, boy, Kansas is already on pace for 70. I can't imagine Texas hanging in there with them. It's already too high scoring for Texas. Well, the second half was just a straight battle. And the Jayhawks came back. They went up 76-72 on a layup from Ochai Agbaji with about a minute left in the game. And then that Longhorn stalwart defense, the best defense in the country by statistics, they locked in. Kansas did not score another single point in the game as Texas came away with the win. Timmy Allen and Marcus Carr, who I've been down on, like I mentioned, came up huge late in the game. Timmy Allen had 24 points, 9 rebounds, and Trey Mitchell also was hot fire. 17 points, 4 rebounds, especially late in the game. This was very much a bend but don't break game for the Texas Longhorns. Because both teams really didn't have any glaring issues or weaknesses. This was a clash of juggernauts. They both played what seemed to be their best basketball, and Texas just flat came away with the win. For Kansas, Jalen Williams was huge, 18 points, 11 rebounds. Big David McCormack had an impressive game, 16.7 rebounds. Kansas shot 60% from the field, and somehow Texas came away with the win. Texas did make the decision, though, clearly from the start of the game, to take Ochai Agbaji out of the game. And additionally, they created 30 extra possessions, 15 of them off of turnovers, 15 of them off of offensive rebounds. And Texas has now won 3 of 4. They are on a roll. They continue their 5-game stretch here, all against ranked opponents, when they take on Baylor at Baylor on Saturday. Boy, Texas, if they could win 4 out of 5, even 3 out of 2 ranked opponents in that stretch is wildly impressive. But if they get the win against Baylor, they're looking really, really hot right now. And then let me jump into the next topic, which is the most fitting way to open this up is by explaining to you the text message I received from one of my greatest friends ever, Logan, and he says, down goes number 1. Number 1, Alabama traveled to Arkansas, and they lost in overtime 80-76. Now, Auburn's fast-paced style offense finally backfired on them. They had 17 turnovers from their starting 5 players. 10 of those turnovers were from the backcourt duo of Wendell Green and KD Johnson. The guards did not have a good game. Green shot just 1 of 7 from 3-pointers, and KD Johnson finished with only 2 points in the game. The backcourt was completely flat. Arkansas clearly made that a priority out of their defense. If you are Auburn, the house isn't on fire, okay? The Tigers are going to be okay, but they need to be better from 3. You need to develop 3-point consistency, and the defense has to be better for sure. As for Arkansas, J.D. Notae, 28 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a big 3 steals as well. He forced the issue and got to the free throw line 14 times. He had a wildly impressive game. The sophomore forward Jalen Williams pulled down 11 rebounds, and he collected his 6th double-double of the season. And the guard Audisi Tony was phenomenal as well. 14 points, 10 rebounds, also got a double-double for himself. Head coach Eric Musselman's squad is just on fire, just like I mentioned Texas is. They have now won 9 games in a row, and they head to Alabama to play on Saturday. That is going to be a game you're going to want to try and watch. Then, the last game, specific game I kind of want to highlight from earlier in the week, number 13 Illinois traveled to number 3 Purdue. Those of you that have been watching the program, you know I've been thinking Illinois is one of these programs that's been on fire as well. But I always said, we'll have to wait and see until they face Purdue. Well, Travion Williams played just 15 minutes in the game, but Mason Gillis stepped up big in his stead. He and Zach Edey battled and held Kofi Coburn to just 5 rebounds in the game. 5 rebounds below his average this season. They got him into foul trouble early in the second half, and they really owned the paint for most of the game. As for Illinois, Alfonso Plummer and Andre Curbelo played well in the backcourt, but they just got flat out outclassed by Purdue's Jaden Ivey. He finished with 26 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. Purdue flexes their muscle, says, no, we're the top dogs in the Big Ten. This was a statement game out of Purdue. Illinois had been on a roll. Purdue dropped the hammer. These two teams are now tied atop the Big Ten standings, but Illinois, at least from a perspective, they have exerted themselves as being the top dogs in the Big Ten. Now, those peculiar things that happened last night. Last night, 6 ranked teams played. 4 of them lost. The parity just continues in this college basketball season. 4 bubble teams made major statements to keep their tourney hopes alive. The first one being SMU, pulled off a big upset at home over number 6 Houston in a massive win that will certainly move them off the bubble and probably into the tourney. Then you had Oklahoma behind 30 points from Umoja Gibson, who knocked off number 9 Texas Tech, possibly moving them off the bubble and into the tourney. Rutgers continues to streak. They now beat number 16 Ohio State. They've now won back-to-back ranked games over back-to-back ranked opponents, and they face number 14 Wisconsin on Saturday. Keep your eyes peeled for that one. And Jack Nungy and Seton Hall knock off number 25 Xavier at home. All of those teams on the bubble. So very interesting. This bubble is going to be fun to watch as the season progresses. Now, let's dive into the most involved part of this program, of this show today, and that is, boy, this has been an incredible year for the Mountain West Conference. They have 6 teams in the top 60 of the net rankings. Wyoming is currently 30, Boise State 34, Colorado State 40, Utah State 41, San Diego State 54, and Fresno State 56. The Mountain West Conference standings are currently Wyoming and Boise State tied at number 1 with 1 conference loss. Colorado State and San Diego State are tied at 3rd with 3 conference losses. Fresno State is alone in 5th at 4 conference losses. So let's get a quick rundown of the games that are going to be coming up in the remainder of the season that will impact how the landscape of the Mountain West will progress throughout the remainder of the season. First, tomorrow, in a game that my wife and I will be at, my cousin and his wife very graciously invited us. They had tickets, and that is going to be Fresno State traveling to Moby to play at Colorado State. Then this Sunday, Colorado State is traveling to Boise State. Next Saturday, February 19th, San Diego State travels to Fresno State. Then that following Tuesday, San Diego State travels to Boise State. On Wednesday, the 23rd, Wyoming travels to Moby to play Colorado State. That's a game I'm still in search of tickets for. I think is probably sold out. On Monday, the 28th, San Diego State travels to Laramie to play Wyoming. And then you have remaining matchups, Fresno State at San Diego State, Fresno State at Wyoming, and Boise State at Colorado State. So as we come down the stretch to the Mountain West Conference Tournament, here's a little bit of a look at my projections. I have the Wyoming Cowboys winning the Mountain West regular season. Wyoming has by far the easiest remaining schedule. They sit currently at 20-3, 9-1 in conference. Graham Ike is second in the Mountain West at 20 points per game, third in the Mountain West at almost 9 rebounds per game. You also have the senior leadership out of Hunter Maldonado, third in the Mountain West in scoring, 19.3 a game, and first in the Mountain West in assists. Also, Drake Jeffries has really come on hot. He's fifth in the country now in three-point shooting percentage. So I have a projection of Wyoming finishing 27-4. They only lose one remaining game, 16-2 in conference, and that would potentially land them at a 6 or a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. Second, I have finishing in the Mountain West is by far the second easiest schedule, and that is the Boise State Broncos. They're currently sit at 18-5, 9-1 in conference. Mladen Armas is fourth in the Mountain West. They're big man at rebounds per game. This Boise State Broncos team, though, they don't really have one true star. It's a true team effort. They're eighth in the country in scoring defense and first in the Mountain West in rebound margin. Those are important factors to keep in mind as you come into the NCAA tournament. I have the Boise State Broncos losing 2 more games and finishing the season 24-7, 15-3 in conference. That, because of their overall record, will likely land them at about a 9 seed, maybe a 10 seed. Next, I have the Colorado State Rams finishing third in the Mountain West. They're currently 18-3, 8-3 in conference. David Roddy has been sensational again. He was last year as well. This year he's fourth in the Mountain West, 18.5 points per game. He's shooting almost 57% from the field. Isaiah Stevens is third in the Mountain West in assists per game. His shooting has dropped a little bit as of late, but he is still orchestrating that offense very efficiently. Colorado State is first in the Mountain West total points per game. This is the most dynamic offense in the conference. They have also the things to keep in mind, like I mentioned for Boise State, things to keep in mind for tournament perspective. Colorado State has the 10th fewest turnovers in the country of any team in the country. They're also 8th in the country in free throw percentage. That they're shooting the free throw at an extremely high clip. Those are two things that can allow a team to advance beyond a higher seed. I have the Colorado State Rams losing 2 more games. They do travel to Boise State. They also have Fresno State, Wyoming, and Boise State at home. I have them losing 2 of those. They finish 23-5, 13-5 on the year, and they get an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. Those are the 3 teams I have making the NCAA tournament. Joe Lunardi currently has 4 projected. As I looked at the upcoming games for each of the teams, I don't really see how either of the remaining 2 teams make the tournament. Next, I have San Diego State finishing 4th in the Mountain West. They're currently 14-6, 6-3 in the conference. They are the number 2 defensive efficiency team in the country, and their big man Nathan Mensah is first in the Mountain West with almost 2.5 blocked shots per game. This Aztec team is 4th in the country in scoring defense, but their offense is just too one-dimensional. Matt Bradley is really the only reliable offensive production. He's putting in 18 points per game. No one else scores in double digits for the Aztecs. They also have a pretty difficult remaining schedule. They get Fresno State, Boise State, and Wyoming on the road. They also host Fresno State. That's a pretty tough clip. So I have San Diego State losing 3 of their remaining games. They finish 19-9, 11-6 in conference. I don't think that's quite enough to get into the NCAA tournament, but they are for sure in the NIT tournament. And finishing now 5th in the Mountain West, I have the Fresno State Bulldogs. Fresno State is currently 16-7 on the year, 6-4 in conference. Their big man, absolutely NBA bound, Orlando Robinson. He's 5th in the conference in rebounds per game, 4th in the conference in blocks per game. This Fresno State defense is 5th in the country in scoring defense. I think if Isaiah Hill and Anthony Holland, kind of their backcourt, can get it going, they may have a chance for some upsets. But look at this murderer's row remaining schedule that the Fresno State Bulldogs have. They travel to Colorado State, I mentioned, tomorrow. They get San Diego State at home. They're also at San Diego State and Wyoming to finish the season. That, I think, they lose 3 of those games. That lands them at 20-10 on the year, 10-7 in conference, and they're out with the possibility of making the NIT tournament. Something to keep in mind, Mountain West Conference fans. Since 1985, teams out of the Mountain West Conference are 22-44 in the NCAA tournament. So, is there any possibility that any of these 3 teams I've projected get out of the first round? I think Wyoming certainly has the possibility to. Boise State with that defense, if they can come up with some important offensive sets, possibly. And I think Colorado State is a very good team. And like I mentioned, with their extremely high free throw percentage and their very low turnover margin, I think they have the possibility of moving out of the first round as well. But that was just a quick deep dive there into the remaining Mountain West Conference schedule and slate. Now let's dive into our weekend preview of college basketball action. First, at 5 p.m. on FS1, this is tomorrow night, Friday night, number 24 Yukon travels to number 25 Xavier. Xavier is an underdog at home by 3 points here. Yukon is 3-3 on the road this year. Xavier 11-3 at home. Yukon had lost 3 in a row before beating Marquette on Tuesday, which was an impressive win, but it was at home. Their field goal percentage has dropped off by almost 15 points in that stretch of 3 games that they lost. Meanwhile, the Musketeers duo of Fremantle and Paul Scruggs are surging for Xavier. They're combining for 30 points in each of their last 3 games. Jack Nungy is a useful third weapon, 12 points, about 7 rebounds a game. For Yukon, they are second in the country in block shots per game, so their defense is going to be an important factor in keeping them involved in this game. But they really seem to have their most impressive performances at home. It doesn't seem to really travel for them when they go on the road all that much this year. Sonogo and Whaley need to be dominant for Yukon in the paint if they're going to be hanging around in this game. Because we've seen now that if they put it all on R.J. Cole, their star guard, it's just not enough. I think I've got Xavier by 4 at home in this one. Both of these teams are currently projected to be a number 6 seed in the upcoming NCAA tournament. Next, at 10 a.m. on ESPN2, Saturday morning, number 20 Texas, I just mentioned, rolls into Waco to take on number 10 Baylor. And like I talked about, Texas is just flat on a roll. Timmy Allen, Trey Mitchell, Marcus Carr all broke out against Kansas. I think if they could score like that, Texas can certainly win this game on the road. However, on the season, Texas is only 2-5 in true road games. Their production definitely doesn't seem like it travels. Listen, the Big 12 is wide open this year. Is the best team in the conference Texas Tech? Is it Kansas? Is it Baylor? Maybe is it Texas now? I mean, it's really wide open at this point. For Baylor, LJ Cryer is 4th in the country in 3-point field goal percentage, but he's missed the last few games. It's looking like he should be back for this one, so that's something to keep in mind. Baylor's real weakness has been turnovers, but those usually occur in fast-paced, wide-open games. Texas is going to want to shorten the game and sort of play it in the half court. I think with Kendall Brown back on track and a healthy Jeremy Sochan, Baylor has enough to get the win at home. I've got Baylor by 8. It all is going to depend on whether Texas can get their offense going. Then at 1:30 on ESPN, Memphis travels to number 6 Houston. Houston is a full 3 games ahead of any other team in the conference. Their 12-game win streak, however, did come to an end against SMU, like I mentioned just last night. The Cougars are number 1 in defensive efficiency in the country. This has truly been a calling card of Kelvin Sampson. They were a top 20 defensive efficiency team last year when they made their run all the way to the Final Four. Now, their offense struggled a bit. After Sasser went down for the year, you also had Tremont Mark that went down for a year. But they seem to have established a big 3 at this point. Fabian White goes 22 points, 9 rebounds in each of the last 3 games. Kyler Edwards is 12 points and 5 assists on the season. And Jamal Shed, although he's been struggling with injuries, 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists on the season. In the last 3 weeks, this Houston Cougar squad has been number 6 in offensive efficiency. You combine that with their number 1 defensive efficiency in the country, that is a juggernaut of a team right there. But again, keep in mind, they did just lose to SMU. As for Memphis, lots of up and downs on the season. They're coming off of a big win, 88-60 over UCF. UCF's a pretty good team. They're 5th in the country in blocks per game at a little over 6 blocked shots per game. But their supposed stud star freshman, Imoni Bates, has largely been underwhelming and done not much for them. This is a Memphis squad that I had projected preseason to be right on pace with Houston, and they have fallen well off of that clip. Memphis has 8 losses already on the season. Now, their 6'11 center, Jalen Duren, and DeAndre Williams have provided most of the production this year, but they operate in the paint. And Houston, with their smothering defense, they're just going to shut that down. So, and keep in mind, this is a Houston defense that is leading the country in field goal percentage defense. So they will force you away from the goal. They're going to force you into tough shots, and it's going to come down to whether they can hit those tough shots. So basically, the question is, can Memphis hit threes to stay in this one? Well, they're 319th in the country in attempts at threes at only 30, and they're only 35% on the season. So my verdict: Houston by 16 in a big bounce back win. Houston is plus 3,000 to win it all. Vegas odds, maybe some value to put some money on right there. Then at 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus, a new team that has hopped up into the rankings, number 23, Murray State. 22-2 on the year, traveling to Morehead State. This is a battle of the top 2 teams in the Ohio Valley Conference. Murray State is undefeated in the conference this year. They haven't lost a game since December 22nd, and that was to Auburn, who's currently ranked number 1 in the country, so that's not much of a mark on their record. The guard, Tevin Brown, is averaging 17.5 points, 6 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game. He's their spark plug. The 6'10 forward, KJ Williams, goes for about 16, 9 rebounds, and he has 9 double-doubles on the season. This is a team that is 10th in the country in rebound margin, Murray State, so they create a lot of additional possessions, like I mentioned, off of the offensive glass. Murray State did beat Morehead State last week, 77-66. That was at home, however. This game is going to be played at Morehead State. In that game, they gave up 12 offensive rebounds, did Morehead State. So they're going to want to be more secure, more physical under the bucket. Yes, this is a tall task for Morehead State. The battle I'm looking forward to, like I said, under the bucket, Williams and Morehead State's Johnny Moore. Johnny Moore is 2nd in the country with 17 double-doubles on the year. He's averaging almost 4 offensive rebounds per game. He needs to exert his force under the hoop to give Morehead a chance here. Morehead State is older in the backcourt, so that should limit turnovers for them, but they are young in the front court. Johnny Moore just being a sophomore. I think Morehead State probably has more potential in the futures market. I think this is going to come down to the wire, but Murray State pulls it out by 2, and I really don't know if they win or lose another one, because if the Racers can get this one, they really have only one remaining threat, and that's Belmont in 2 weeks, and they're just going to have so much momentum by that point. I think you could see Murray State march up, like I said about Wyoming, maybe even up to like a 6 line in the NCAA tournament. At 8 p.m. on Saturday, ESPN2, number 22, St. Mary's, travels to number 2, Gonzaga. We finally get to see Gonzaga play another ranked team, although St. Mary's already lost earlier this week, so they're certainly not going to be ranked come next week unless they beat Gonzaga. Gonzaga, here's your rundown of this one. Gonzaga leads the country in scoring offense. They're number 2 in offensive efficiency in the country. Gonzaga is 5th in the country in rebound margin at plus 9. They're 6th in the country at assist-to-turnover ratio. So there aren't really any obvious flaws with this Gonzaga team. They've won 12 in a row by an average margin of 30-plus points. Andrew Nembhard has been absolutely brilliant facilitating at the guard position. He's collecting almost 6 assists per game. Their big man, Drew Timme, remains a Naismith contender, although he's fallen off a touch. He's going for about 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game. But the Zags haven't played the Gales yet this year. They have 2 remaining games this year against St. Mary's, so we don't for sure have a verdict on what this one's going to look like. So the question is, do the Gales have a chance? Well, Gonzaga has the 2 losses this year. They haven't lost to a conference opponent in 2 years. Gonzaga hasn't lost a home game in 4 years. So, the deck is stacked against the Gales. But in the 2 losses, like I mentioned, that Gonzaga has suffered this year, they were held to just 81 points on average. Their season average is 91. So you got to hold Gonzaga down about 10 points on their scoring margin at least. When Duke beat them, they beat them by getting Timmy and Holmgren in foul trouble, and they forced them into 17 turnovers. The Gales are 290th in free throw attempts, and they don't get to the line often, and they only force 9 turnovers per game. So that strategy is not going to work. So how about the other strategy? When Alabama beat Gonzaga, they hit 13 three-pointers, and they out-rebounded the Zags. Still a tall task, but the Gales average 7.5 3-points made per game, and the Gales are a top 40 team in the country in rebound margin at +5. So, if Tommy Kusi and Alex Dukas can double their 3-point production from the backcourt, and Matthias Tass and Kyle Bowen can grab 3 or 4 extra rebounds, they're probably going to have to get Holmgren and Timmy into foul trouble to accomplish that, then maybe. But I don't see it. I've got Gonzaga winning by 22 in this one. At 8 o'clock on ESPN, this is going to be a better game than most people think. Number 12 UCLA travels to number 21 USC. The Bruins are favored in this one, and I've got to say, I was actually impressed in the Trojans game against Arizona. Isaiah Mobley is no longer all alone on this team. Boogie Ellis is finally coming on. He's averaging 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists in their last 3 games. And here comes Chavez Goodwin. He is the secret weapon for this Trojan squad. He's a top 15 field goal percentage shooter in the country, averaging 12.7 rebounds per game. Now, keep in mind the Bruins are coming off of 2 losses just this last week, and that's after having lost only 2 games all year. They missed 28 three-pointers in their last 2 games. 28 they missed. Okay? UCLA does not have a credible 3-point threat. Teams are starting to wake up to this, and they're not defending out at the 3-point line. This allows the defense to help off of their man on dribble drive penetrations. It also allows, in a ball screen situation, for the defender to go under the screener instead of having to fight over the screener. Unfortunately for USC, their strength is down low, not in the perimeter. But I would keep an eye on that. Jaime Jaquez has been on a tear as of lately, but Jules Bernard and Johnny Juzang are really kind of in a shooting slump. I think if USC values the rock and doesn't get kind of into an up-and-down game, I think they've got a real chance in this game. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go UCLA by 5 in this one. USC, better than people think, better than I thought. So let's run down a quick recap of the games for this weekend. We've got Yukon traveling to Xavier. I've got Xavier by 2 in that one. We've got number 20 Texas going to number 10 Baylor. I've got Baylor by 8. Memphis travels to Houston. I've got Houston by 16. Murray State, number 23 in the country, at Morehead State. This is a battle of the top 2 teams in Ohio Valley Conference. I've got Murray State by 2. St. Mary's, number 22, travels to number 2 Gonzaga. I've got the Zags by 22 in that one. And then the evening game you're going to want to stay up for. It's going to be fun and interesting. And LA is allowing fans back in the stands now. So it's going to be probably a raucous environment. Number 12 UCLA, I've got winning by 5 at number 21 USC. And that will do it for our episode today. I want to thank you again for joining us here on Right on Cue College Sports. And we'll just keep coming at you with new episodes. And I hope that you're enjoying our content.